Hello and welcome to the Book of Leaves podcast. My name is Cara Carney and I am your host. Hello and thank you so much for tuning in to episode 81 of Book of Leaves. In this podcast interview, I am going to be chatting to a volunteer from Sea Shepherd Ireland called Emma, and I really enjoyed this chat, so hopefully you guys will as well. Before we get into that, if anyone is new to the podcast, you're very welcome. It's so lovely to have you here. I'll be interviewing people from all walks of life that are doing something good for the planet in Ireland or with a connection to Ireland, and the whole idea is myself and you, the listeners, can take a leaf out of their book to add to our own way of eco-friendly living. So that's where the show's name comes from. Before we get into Emma's interview, I want to say two things. First off, thank you so much to anyone who showed up to the event that was with Curt International Festival of Literature. Myself, Owen Dalton, Mancon McGann and Emma Must had a lovely panel talk in the Town Hall Theatre, and it was just really nice. You know, sometimes chatting about climate change can just be really nice and enjoyable. So I definitely recommend checking out their books if you haven't already. I'm back in Barcelona now, so I don't know if you'll be able to hear the background music. I'm in renting an apartment while I'm over here, and the walls are very thin, but it means that you get to be, there's loads of different noises that just bleed through the walls, so you'll probably be picking up some footsteps and kids playing and lots of music in the background. The life here is amazing, and there's a couple of things that I'm going to be posting on social media, really nice things that I've noticed that Barcelona does, that's really eco-friendly. Like their public transport is just amazing. It's so well equipped. So yeah, anyway, that will be for my social media. The other thing I wanted to say is this is the first podcast I recorded since last year with Emma, and I made an absolute boo-boo. It's not too bad, but I didn't triple check that my microphone was recording my audio via the microphone. Instead, it was picking up my audio from the webcam, which is not good audio. But thankfully, Emma's audio is beautiful and crisp and clear, and she's talking for 85-90% of this chat. So I hope you bear with me when I'm talking. It's not going to be the best, but she's more important than me for this chat. So sorry about that. I mean, you think at 4 years in the podcast, in the podcasting world, I'd learn to double check that, but no, there's always something. So before we start playing Emma's interview, if you do like the podcast, if you would like more people to hear it, or you think there's more good messages in this, please do share it with a friend. Word of mouth is the biggest way people start listening to new podcasts. So recommend it to family, friends, colleagues, activist groups that you're in. Share it on social media. You'll find me, Book of Leaves Podcast, on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I'll be sharing some visuals from this episode in posts as well on Instagram to kind of like, I don't know, I find it a bit more interesting, because when I hear podcasts that I'm listening to talking about certain things and then they upload photographs of them, I just really enjoy that. So I'll be doing that a little bit, as much as I can anyway, where relevant for the interviews. And of course, if you are in a position where you can contribute financially to the podcast, I do have a Patreon account, patreon.com/Book of Leaves, or a Buy Me a Coffee account where you can donate once off, or you can sign up to donate regularly there as well. So that's buymeacoffee.com/Book of Leaves. And I really appreciate all of the people who are supporting me on those platforms so much already. Like, there's so many little costs that add up, from hosting to the website to the video editing and the picture editing that I use. There's just a lot. So thank you so much to everyone who has been contributing. I really appreciate it. I'm just noticing now that you can probably hear me earrings clicking. Hear that? Oh well, there's a bit of ASMR for you. So without further ado, I really hope you guys enjoyed this chat with Emma from Sea Shepherd, and don't forget that they are still looking for volunteers, and I have a little update as well about the EU shark finning at the end of the interview. So enjoy, and I'll catch you after.
Hello everyone, my name is Emma, and I am the country director of Sea Shepherd Ireland. That's my volunteering job, but I also work full-time too, so it's like 2 full jobs in one go.
Oh my gosh, I know so many people like that. That's what happens when you end up caring so much about something, you'll do it for free, but then you also need to pay your bills as well. Are we allowed to know what your full-time job is in the vein of?
Yeah, of course. I'm a customer experience manager for a company called Slack.
Ah, sure, we know the Slack. Slack got very popular during the lockdown now. Oh, I see. Interesting. But
Yeah,
Sea Shepherd is completely different to Slack. So
slightly.
obviously a little bit different. Yeah, Slack is like a communication kind of forum platform, very popular for like workspaces and stuff like that. For anyone listening who hasn't heard of it, but Sea Shepherd Ireland is obviously, we'll get into who they are, but if you're volunteering for a group like that, obviously you care about marine life, or you care about certain aspects of the environment, or maybe just the environment as a whole, as we all should. Have you always been interested or caring about the environment, or was there like a turning point for you in your life?
Well, yeah, I suppose it pens back to when I remember my very first dolphin show, would you believe? When I was 7 years old, I was in Portugal and we went to a dolphinarium there and I saw my very first dolphin in real life, and I fell in love with the animal straight away. And all I wanted to be when I was seven was a dolphin trainer. I wanted to be that person standing up there showing off this beautiful animal, and I was like just absolutely astounded by how amazing it was. And so my mom was really supportive of me. I have to say, she was incredible. And she, even though it was a completely wild out dream, it's almost as like somebody saying they want to be an astronaut kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was being shown different ways to get involved with marine life, and mom would always bring me out to the beach, and she's a great believer in the beach having healing powers. So anytime I wasn't feeling well, she'd bring me out to the beach, and we do big breath in and big breath out and thank the beach and the sea and the ocean for minding us. And it was very much like a kind of holistic way of looking at stuff. Fast forward to me being 16, and myself and my mom went over to Florida. I was doing TY in school actually, and I was still mad about dolphins. Like everything in my room was dolphin, like my duvets, my pillows. I had dolphin teddies, all of my ornaments, all of my room were all dolphin everything. And like to a puking point. Um, and so we went to Florida for 6 weeks during my TY to experience high school. While we were there, she also organised for me to be a dolphin trainer for a day with the Clearwater Aquarium in Clearwater in Florida, which has since become really famous from a movie. Oh, what is the movie called? Movie basically about a dolphin who is found without its tail, dolphin tail. I knew the
Ah,
movie was
there
going to
you
be until I
go.
explained it. So they became really famous from that movie way after I was there. I was there way before that. They are a volunteer organization that take dolphins that are found on beaches or beached, and they nurse them back to health basically. So it was a different way of looking at dolphin training. It wasn't for public amusement. They were training them so they could give them medicine. They were training them so they could examine them, and then they were releasing them back to the wild. So they weren't keeping them. And I was like, oh, that's different. And that was the first time that I actually thought about why are we keeping them in tanks and not letting them go? And that was an amazing experience. Like it was, some parts of it were gross. From like the prepping the food part was a bit gross. I came home to Ireland then, and I did my work experience in the aquarium in Galway, and I absolutely loved it. But again, in the back of my head was always, why are they in tanks?
These are healthy
This
dolphins, like they weren't rescues or whatever necessarily.
Yeah, and like in the aquarium in Galway, there weren't any dolphins, but there were rays and dogfish and crabs and eels and pollock, and I was going, they're used to this massive space that I'm used to standing at with my mother, breathing in and out and looking at and going, wow, it's so expansive, and now we're putting them into a little box. So why are we doing that? So that was where my passion kind of started. I started looking up stuff. And this was in the day of like, takes you a million years to get onto the internet kind of thing.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, the dial-up tone, and you're right. You go
yeah,
off to make a cup of tea while the one web page you're trying to load is still like loading. Or yeah, yeah.
exactly. So I had MySpace at the time, and I found a guy called Rick O'Barry who was Flipper, which obviously was my favorite program when I was a kid. But Flipper, for those of you that don't know, was an American show about a dolphin being friends with a boy. Basically, they fight crime together and stuff. It's quite cute. But Rick O'Barry was the trainer for Flipper in the 80s, and Flipper actually, sadly, committed suicide in Rick O'Barry's arms
What?
because she was so depressed.
Oh my
with
God.
being in captivity, and that changed him in that moment. And he became a huge advocate for dolphins, and he discovered the Cove in Tuite, where they capture these bottlenose dolphins and they blocked them into this cove. The dolphin trainers from different dolphinariums around the world, they come in, they go, "That's a pretty dolphin, that's a pretty dolphin, I'll take that one, that one, and that one," and the rest of them are all slaughtered. So when I watched the documentary The Cove, because it is unbelievably heartbreaking, that spurred me on even more to go, okay, this is seriously not right. We all need to change our minds with this. But I was still sort of on the fence of, I kind of thought that people were still doing good by having dolphins in tanks and minding them, and maybe they didn't have a home to go to, and I was still quite naive at the age of 16 and 17. But when we were in Florida as well, we went to SeaWorld. And the first day was amazing because I could touch the dolphin and I was like, oh my God, and it's right there. And the second day I had my eyes open and I broke down in tears with how many dolphins were in that one tank that people were just prodding and poking. Like all members of the public were just touching them and taunting them, and it was just vile. So I was like, I swear to God, I'll never go back there again, and I will talk to everybody about not going back there again. So then it was becoming my leaving cert year, and I was like, what am I doing with the rest of my life?
The
So I
dreaded
just,
decisions when you're only like 18. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I decided to do marine science and try and get into the conservation side of things. So I did marine science in college in NUIG. Loved it so much that I stayed for 5 years instead of 4 years. But while I was there, actually, Sea Shepherd Ireland were around and they came into campus one day. And I nearly lost my life because I knew what Sea Shepherd was at that point because I had seen Whale Wars and I was like, oh, they're in Ireland? What? So I ran up to the girl. I think she thought I was crazy, but I ran up to her going, I want to get involved. What do I want to do? I can do something. So I started up with the Sea Shepherd back then, and I was in the events coordinator side of things. I'd put on events with different Irish bands around the country, raise money for Sea Shepherd Global and Sea Shepherd Ireland. So that was kind of my beginning look at Sea Shepherd and what they were doing in Ireland when I was only, 22. So
But that's really interesting because I love your journey is so clear. I love asking people this question because I love finding out like when various seeds were planted and seen in someone's journey, like that it's not just all of a sudden one day you decide to care about whales. Like there's so much there, from your relationship with your mom to the experiences that you had. What beach did you grow up near?
So I'm from Castlebar in Mayo. So we used to always go out to Bercher Beach in Westport. It was either the beach or we'd go to Bilberry Lake just on the way out to the beach and stand by the lake. It was anything with water. Like my mum is mad into blue spaces and now I am. But she's a really great believer in the healing powers of the ocean. And even like if you're at the beach and you get a cut or something, she'd encourage you to go into the water and the water will heal it for you and everything. And it's very true, in fairness to her. Like I've always felt better after being at the beach and getting that really fresh air into you. And what I always say when we're doing beach cleans, I always say to the group at the very end of it, I stop everyone and I say, right, everyone take a deep breath and take a second one. And once that second one is done, I say, right, that second one came directly from the ocean. We have to thank the ocean for that one. Otherwise, we wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to breathe.
Yes, isn't that the thing? So every
Hmm.
second breath, the oxygen in that is provided by the ocean because we always think that it's only trees and forests. Yeah, that's a really, really powerful reminder of the importance of it. Yeah, because we can't breathe underwater, so we forget about it. That'll come up a couple of times because that means we can't see the animals and everything that are there.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing. And just before we move on to a little bit about Sea Shepherd as well, I just want to comment on the Cove documentary. I actually never watched it because when I know something is bad and if I think watching it like Earthlings will just like upset me, but
Hmm.
I'm already like acting, I'm like, okay, no, Cara, don't do that to yourself. So because I hadn't seen that, I actually had I just presumed that they were all killing the dolphins for like food and medicine in inverted commas. I had no idea that dolphin trainers were going there as part of that, because you see this in like the pro SeaWorld community all the time, that we love our dolphins. And like I'd understand, people do form, zookeepers and farmers can form bonds with animals because they are beautiful beings and you can get emotionally attached. But then to say that and actually know that these places are supporting like massacres of dolphins, that just blows my mind. It just
Yeah,
doesn't.
I do think that a few I mean, if you're to believe some of the comments from some of the trainers don't know. Like, obviously, it's the higher ups that would be picking the dolphins, etc. But some of the trainers on the ground don't know that this happens. Now, that's a very much past tense. They didn't know. They have to know by now, unless they just don't like close off
Unless
their
they don't
minds.
have the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, if they close off their minds and you don't want to know, then you don't want to know, and that's that's one thing. Even in the documentary Blackfish is another one that's really good about SeaWorld. There is a kind of a naivety around it of like, oh, that naivety that I had when I was 7 of like, I want to be a dolphin trainer, that's amazing, and they're so friendly, and but you have to grow up at some point and you have to realize that something is bigger than just you and your feelings around it. And it is like, as you know, being an activist, it is quite difficult to talk to people that have that mindset of, no, you're wrong because I say you're wrong. There's no fact behind it. We have all the facts. We're saying this is wrong because X amount of dolphins are killed a year. X amount of dolphins are in captivity and they are depressed. They have different diseases happening for them. And people are like, no, well, you're wrong because they look like they're happy and they're smiling. And
Yeah. That's the
that's
end of
just
it.
the argument is
Yeah.
just that. You're like, no, you're
Yeah. And
wrong. You're
like you
like, okay.
said, their minds are closed off. Yeah. So that's why I think documentaries, though, when things like that come out or become viral, like Seaspiracy and Blackfish, I think they're really helpful in widening that circle of people
Oh,
becoming
massively.
conscious. So art, any kind of fundraising and awareness is just so important about this. But there's so much I want to talk to you about. I'd love to know, because you talked a little bit about Sea Shepherd. I didn't know about Sea Shepherd until becoming more active. I'd never heard of them. So can you tell listeners who also might not know, like, who they are and what they do?
Yeah, of course. So Sea Shepherd is a international non-profit organization. They engage in direct action to defend the ocean, the wildlife within the ocean, anything from your smallest krill all the way up to your biggest whale. And as we call them in our internal communication with Sea Shepherd, we call them our clients. All of our clients are our
Oh, the
ocean.
clients are like fish and
Yeah.
whales and everything. Oh my god, I love that.
They are our clients, and we need to protect them and look after them and make sure that they have a healthy environment to live in. So the global team's work is done offshore, and it is done obviously in the ocean. There's lots of different campaigns that are going on right now and that go on at different times of the year. So say, for instance, we were talking about the Cove. There is Cove Guardians, and they are sea shepherds who are down in the cove. It's very dangerous because the Japanese government do not think that they're doing anything wrong. So what Sea Shepherd are doing down there is they are being a presence and making people feel uncomfortable about doing it, and also recording it and putting it out to the rest of the world so that everyone knows that it's happening and it's not just swept under the rug. Then we have in, say, the Faroe Islands, we have more Sea Shepherd volunteers. Again, it's not an illegal activity. They can kill whales over there. It's part of their culture, as they say, which again we know as not being the best thing to do for the environment, to put it lightly. But we are there and we are videoing it and we are taking it to the world and telling the world that this is happening. And then we also have situations where we are working with the governments in Africa. So saying in Gabon in Africa, to help them stop poachers and illegal fishing in their waters. So like us here in Ireland, they don't have a massive navy and they needed help with the overfishing that was happening and also the bycatch situation that was happening when illegal boats were coming into their waters. And Sea Shepherd went down there, we investigated, we saw that 0.02% of the catch that was happening was actually what they were looking for to catch. And they were looking for to catch shrimp at that point, but they were catching anything from turtles to dolphins to just basically plundering that whole section of the ocean. So Sea Shepherd went down there, and they're still down there. They're helping the African government in Gabon to liaise together to get these boats arrested and get the boats out of the waters and get them docked for good. Then we've got other campaigns going on. The Stop Finning campaign was one major thing that we were involved in here in Ireland. And Stop Finning is a EU initiative to stop the sale of shark fins within Europe. And it's kind of dire to think of, but Spain is actually the second highest distributor of shark fins in the world.
What? I'm in Spain right now. What?
Yeah.
What the hell? That's wild. Because yeah, this comes up in Seaspiracy as well, that people just assign this kind of idea to countries in Asia, but
Yeah.
like Europe is well neck deep in atrocities like finning and stuff like that. Wow, I didn't know Spain was one of the highest distributors.
Yeah.
And I know that
So
there's like a petition and stuff that people can sign for that. I'm going to link all these things in the show notes as well, so that people can find them easily.
yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great. There was a voting happening, and we need to get 1 million votes in Europe to bring this to the EU Parliament, and that was achieved, thank God. And Ireland managed to get our threshold as well, so we had 9,000 votes that we had to get of people, and they're legitimate voting. Like it's like any ballot, it just wasn't done in a ballot format. Everyone has the right to vote on these EU legislations. But now it's with the EU Parliament. We've had our discussions already, and they're going to pass whether it's going to be law or not in a couple of weeks, actually, the 29th, I think it is, of March. So hopefully, fingers crossed that that becomes a law, that it's just absolutely, you cannot trade shark fins at all in Europe. And anyone caught doing so will be punished within the realms of the law. So the things like that we're trying to change. Obviously, everyone is aware of the big plastic problem in the world, the littering and the pollution that is going straight into our oceans. Because if you see a crisp packet that's on the street in Dublin, that will end up out in the ocean, because all the drains lead to the ocean in the end. So we, as onshore volunteers, we do a lot of not only beach cleaning, though, we do canal cleaning. We also do, like, if anyone is not within a reach of a sea, say in the center of the city of the country, cleaning up your area is what that's the message that we want to get out there. Keeping everything clean and looking after it is the best way for all animals to survive. We're not only talking about the ones that are under the sea, we're also talking about birds and bees and everything. So
It's all interlinked. Yeah.
exactly, the circle of life, as they say in the Lion King. Uh, so yeah, we've been doing lots of beach cleaning. We did 18 beaches last year and collected over 1,200 kilograms of waste from the beaches. So it's lots of effort. Within that, then, as we were talking to people doing beach cleans, it was really interesting because new people were coming up to us all the time going, "Oh, I'm here, like, we're going to different beaches. So they're like, I'm here every Saturday and I bring a bag with me and collect stuff." And you're like, "That's amazing. That's excellent. And thank you so much for doing that." And they were thanking us for coming to clean their beach. But then we got talking to a few different people from different kind of walks of life. And I want to make it really clear that Sea Shepherd are not against people earning a living when it comes to farming, to fishing, to oyster farming, etc. What we really want you to make sure you're doing is the right thing for the environment within that. So we were talking to a few fishermen, we were talking to a few people that were working on the oyster farm down in Wexford. Like, it was our way in, I suppose, to have a listening ear as well, of like, okay, what are you doing? And then once we know what they're doing, we can try and help them do it better, or not do it at all. So that was really interesting for us, and it spurred off a whole new section of our Ghost Network campaign. It's wider than us as well. We've brought in some guys from Portugal who are going to be working with us, and Italy. And the ghost nets, for anyone that doesn't know, are nets that are left in the ocean by either fishing trawlers or fishermen, or that have maybe like escaped the docks, I suppose, from a bad storm or something like that, not necessarily left in the ocean, but have maybe made their way back to the ocean and are causing harm. They
Yeah, because
can
nets are designed to catch fish.
exactly.
Like imagine an animal underwater with fins, no thumbs, trying to get out of a net designed to entangle them. Yeah, they're really, really detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're working on now is a ghost network campaign where we collect the nets. We will have a connection point in Dublin, Cork and Donegal, and fishermen who have their leftover nets can just go and bring them there. We'll collect them all, and then we will transport them to a company who will recycle them, but not only recycle them, but reimagine them, I suppose, is the way to look at it. So we were looking at a company that making bracelets and stuff from it. We're also looking at a company that's making coats, bags, just repurposing the material so that it's no longer harmful and it's not just sitting there as a net. It's now usable
Because
and
it's really durable
sustainably.
playastic, as far as I know as well. Like it
Oh
is
yeah, it's
extremely
tough,
strong.
tough going stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can make lots of stuff from it. Reusable bottles, all the coffee cups that are reusable and stuff as well.
There's swimming suit companies that
Yeah.
we're recycled fishing nets. Yeah.
Lots of stuff to be made out of them. But we just don't have the factory to process it in Ireland, so that's why we have to move it outside of Ireland.
Be
But it
amazing if
will.
we had one of them instead of a big cheese plant factory now, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just?
Just putting that out there into the ether. A nice upcycling fishing net factory, but all we can think about is cheese. The campaigns that you are working on sound absolutely amazing, but I think one misconception a lot of people have, and maybe obviously people listening to this podcast are environmentally conscious in a lot of ways already, but I'm still learning about the life that we actually have in our oceans, and the fact that Ireland, I believe we have in our, like as a country, 5 times the amount of sea surface as we do land.
10 times.
Is it 10 times? Oh my God. Whoa, so we have 10 times the sea surface of our country. And obviously, when you think of Ireland, you just see our little teddy bear shaped island, and that's what you think of when we come up in the Eurovision or whatever. They don't show you the sea around us, but like we're one of the very few island countries in Europe, and with that comes a lot of responsibility, as Uncle Ben says in Spider-Man, but also we have so much wildlife that we can say is native to us that we don't know about. So we think about fungi and we think about seals. But then, oh my God, we have orcas visited in Donegal. Isn't that so strange? No, not really. So can you tell us a little bit about the wildlife, like the actual species that we have? But because we can't breathe underwater, we just don't see them. We don't get as excited about them because we don't see them like we do when we see squirrels or foxes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I don't think many people know that off the coast of Ireland is a coral reef. It's just really far down. So it's not the normal coral reef that you'd see in, say, Australia, where all these bright colours are happening because it's right up in the sun rays. But there is coral living and breathing just off the coast of Ireland. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's 220 million acres is the marine mass around Ireland, which is just an incomprehensible number to me anyway. I have to kind of look at the map and go, okay, now I get it.
Okay, yes, big.
It's big, lots of zeros. But yeah, so we have creatures like, as you mentioned, we have bottlenose dolphins, but we also have common dolphins who are absolutely beautiful, black and white colour on them, a little bit of brown along the side. We also have different types of seals. So we've got grey seals and common seals. And basking sharks are always around Achill. In the summertime, they're humongous, but they are gentle giants. Absolutely gentle. They, like, when everyone hears the word shark, they kind of get a bit afraid. And it's like, oh, it's a shark. This is the friendliest shark you'll ever meet. The huge mouth on them, so they're a bit terrifying to look at, but they're so incredibly majestic when they're swimming and peaceful, and you'll see loads of different fish around them as well, like hanging out.
Yeah, there's these like symbiotic relationships, don't they? Where like
they do. But we also have like the smaller creatures. We've got lots of different types of starfish. So there's like the cushion starfish, which is literally like a cushion, and it's got 5 little points on it, and it looks like you could just kind of go boop.
Something from a Pixar film. Aww.
Yeah, literally, it's so cute and small. But we've got loads of different types of starfish as well. Lots of different species of mussel, which we are very proud of in our food industry side of things, but not so much in how beautiful they are alive. We've obviously got salmon and trout, cod. These numbers of these fish, though, unfortunately, are diminishing rapidly, almost non-existent. Like, you talk to any fisherman and they're finding it really hard to find the fish they used to have. So their shops and their industries are suffering because of these other big, massive factory ships that are coming in and just pillaging everything and taking it all. And that's just reducing our overall fish and amazing diversity that we have here in our waters. There's so many. There's lobsters, there's spider crabs down there, there's conger eels in the Irish water, there's little sharks, there's bigger sharks, there's dogfish, which are a type of shark. Then there's, never mind them, but everyone loves a seahorse. So many seahorses in Ireland, and they're hanging out, minding their own business, and then they get whopped up by a big massive trawler, and you're like, oh no, wait a second. So yeah, we always do think of the kind of bigger ones, the sharks and whales and dolphins and seals, but we need to concentrate also on the smaller ones, the mussels, the octopus, the squid, the seahorses, the starfish, all of these little creatures that are begging us to help them to survive, really.
Yeah, and without the
Um,
krill and the small creatures, there wouldn't be the basking sharks, and
exactly.
everyone kind of relies on each other. And actually, there's this artist that I came across on Instagram, literally only in the last couple of weeks, called Rachel Brooks, and she's Scottish, and she makes like watercolor paintings of animals, of sea life mostly. And she has like a print now. Obviously, we won't really be able to see it, but I'm going to send it to you and I'll post it on my Instagram. Marine life of the Irish Sea, and she paints like a basking shark, bottlenose dolphin, harbour porpoise, blue shark, the grey seal. But this like beautiful painting, and all of her stories on her Instagram tell you a little bit about the species and where it is and how it's doing. And it's
Oh,
just like a really
cool.
nice way. It's a really nice example of artivism and kind of showing people, because I think this is so important with sea life, because we can't see it. We need to be reminded all the time of what's there and what needs protecting. Like I don't know, I just started following her. She has no idea who I am, but I'm a big fan now. I'm a big fan of her art.
That's
But
amazing. Yeah, there is so much beauty out there, and it's not explored properly yet, and it's not being looked after either. So we're at a point where we're destroying something we didn't even know was there in the first place, which is sad.
yeah, big time. Big time. Like there's the Greenland shark who was alive when Shakespeare was. The Greenland shark lives for hundreds of years, and we don't even know how they mate, because
Yeah.
they live so far down at the bottom of the ocean. That just blows my mind. But our microplastics, they're the only thing reaching the bottom of the ocean. So to think that we are having the negative effect that we are is really horrible. Now we will get into what we can do, because I don't want to numb everybody into just feeling sad, but it is important to empower ourselves with the knowledge as well. So we talked about ghost nets being an issue. I
Mhm.
know pollution is an issue of just like normal litter coming in and plastic waste in general. Going into the ocean. I talked about this on Seal Rescue Ireland as well. I interviewed them and they were saying how seals absolutely will eat a crisp packet because it looks like a shiny fish, and that's all it takes for that seal to unfortunately die. We also have terrible waste management here in Ireland, and a lot of that goes into the ocean, which is, I imagine, disrupting things. And then dredging and trawling. Can you explain, because this is something I actually don't understand, why super trawlers, which are the big factory ships that just take the whole ocean floor with them, and if they're only looking for shrimp, which may be bottom dwelling, they'll take everything, the sharks, the seahorses, the coral, and then everything else is bycatch. So it could be that 1% or whatever of shrimp is caught, and everything else is just thrown back into the sea, most likely dead, which is absolutely atrocious. How come Ireland is allowing that in our waters? Only the other week we had Marjorie, I think it's called. So
Mhm.
are you able to say like why they're
I can
allowing it?
I can assume. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know exactly why. I know that there is a disconnect between the government of Ireland and what's actually happening out there and what they know is happening out there in the ocean. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It's like turn a blind eye to something you don't want to know the answer to. We know what is the best thing to do for our ocean, but the Irish government know it's going to cost them money. And that is what they see is dollars or euro signs, I should say, not dollar signs, euro signs, because it's not only going to cost them money to not have these big massive trawlers kind of rent the area for a while. It's also going to cost money to get more Navy personnel out there to stop them, because we only have, what is it, 2 active Navy boats for
What?
a 220 million acre area.
Oh my god.
We don't have enough people
Jeez.
and money put into that to protect it. Like, I mean, Australia were able to turn around and say to that Marginis super trawler, no, you're not coming into our waters. And they had to turn their heel and leave because they were not allowed into Australian waters. We don't have the backup to do that. And it is sickening and saddening. And we here in Sea Shepherd Ireland will do everything we can to keep plugging that and keep pushing it. And I know that Fair Seas are doing a great job as well of getting those areas protected, and getting the marine protected areas up to the 30%. I
You're at
am.
2 now, isn't it?
I think we're at 8 at the moment.
Oh,
We
8.
jumped up
Okay.
another 6% just before they went off
Ooh.
to some other conference. But these are numbers. I mean, for me, it's not enough to say, okay, we'll do 30% per 30, because who's actually protecting that area? Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
Money is the source of all evil, really, in this world, unfortunately. And when money is involved, or somebody's going to lose money or have to spend money, they don't want to do it. That's a lot of the time. It's where Sea Shepherd come in around the globe as well. We are funded purely by people sponsoring us, and some people, we've been lucky enough that people have bought boats for us that we can go out there and do stuff, buy equipment. We've got stuff like that, but we can go where no government can, basically, because we are a private navy, so we can go anywhere.
But do you have a leg to stand on if you, because Sea Shepherd, I imagine, like your flag is like your pirates, and I love that, pirates protecting the sea, your clients. So do you guys ever intervene with illegal fishing boats or illegal whaling and things like that, or can you do that without the government backing you up, because then you're breaking some laws or something?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Sea Shepherd 10 years ago, what they were doing in the South Pacific for stopping the Japanese whalers was gathering research around what was happening. So these Japanese whalers were down there, and they were saying, "Hey, we're doing this for research purposes, and we're just catching the whales for research, and we have a quota that we can go by, and that's within the law." So they basically found a way around the law, basically, and they're like, "We're not actually catching these for our own benefit." But Sea Shepherd watched, and they gathered evidence that they weren't just doing it for research. These were not real research vessels. They weren't real research groups. They got the information behind it, and they shut them down. And they brought this evidence basically to the governments to go, hey, these guys, like, hello, these guys. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So Sea Shepherd used to take really drastic measures of, like, without harming any humans, they would like throw stink bombs, just to make that, like, not actual bombs, but stink bombs onto the deck, so
Wow.
that the whale meat would not be able, they wouldn't be able to sell the whale meat, basically. So when they were bringing the whale up on deck, it would be covered in this stink, and they couldn't sell the meat anymore. So it would deter them from catching them in the first place, especially if Sea Shepherd were around. And Sea Shepherd, like, they would get in between if there was a ship out there for a long time, and I don't know if you've watched Chasing the Thunder, but it is amazing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's Peter Hammerstead, one of our captains in Sea Shepherd, was chasing a illegal trawler for 100 days out in the ocean, and you just see what kind of stuff they get up to. It's amazing. Like, they get in between the ship and the refueling ship, so they can't refuel, and they just kind of cause a bit of disruption.
But that's what Sea Shepherd does. They're disruptive,
We have
like,
to be there.
organization. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have
Because
to be there.
sometimes when the government has failed and the legislation isn't there, like, what are you going to do when someone's hand is moving in a way to do detrimental action? Like, you get in the way of the hand. That's
Well,
brilliant.
that's the thing, and, like, I mean, right now I know that they say in Iceland there's more whaling. They're just after legalizing whaling again, which is really upsetting. So again, Sea Shepherd will be there to document everything and like, it's someone 10 years ago it wasn't as easy as what it is. Not that it's easy. It wasn't as easy to get the word out there. You'd have to rely on newspapers to pick it up, or you'd have to rely on news agencies to do it for you. Whereas now, Sea Shepherd have the platforms to put them up on their own social medias, etc., and share it, so that it has to be picked up, and it has to be putting pressure on these different governments. Like, you see the Faroe Islands campaigns, the pressure that is put on the government to stop it. And I Sea Shepherd, Seaspiracy did the same thing. They talked about it, and they brought it to the public, and the public were disgusted by it. It hasn't stopped it, unfortunately, but it has put pressure to stop it, and it will, like, down the line, hopefully will stop it. But when you're out in the open ocean, the only way to kind of stop that kind of stuff is, again, to document it, to put pressure on it, and to report it back to the authorities. So by people in Ireland reporting to us, like what we got the other day about that trawler, we didn't know about that trawler. We don't have eyes out in the ocean. We don't have a boat, but we had our friends in the fishing community go, hey guys, look at this. This is happening outside of Ireland. We need people to do that for us as well. We need to gather the information and bring it to the government and go, hey, stop this, because this is not good for our ocean. It's not good for our fishing population, our villages, anyone. It's not good for anyone. Like, if we keep allowing these monstrous factory ships into our waters, there will be no second breath for anyone. Ever. So, yeah.
It's
Sorry,
really,
got a bit
yeah.
passionate about
No,
that there.
that's what we need. Emma for president. No, honestly, that's what we need, because you mentioned earlier that like money is the root of all evil, but what's missing is that connection with nature that you explained having with your mom. Like, we
Yeah.
need to bring the emotion into it, and we need to foster that connection. But obviously, we fortunately need money to survive in the society that we live in today. But if the government, if the TDs, the people themselves, the individual, was to recognize and feel and realize the importance of this cycle, of this, the amazing life that is in our seas in Ireland and across the world, and how it's all interlinked, the money then is not worth it. Like, that's why you're doing the work you do for free, because this is more important than the money. And so, like, I do believe that we can reach that with people, and we need to do that with like activism and art, and yeah, raising awareness and making documentaries. Like, it's so important. And you mentioned there that one of the things people do that can help is to report things and send them to you, which is good.
Mhm.
How else can people help and support Sea Shepherd and get involved?
Well, we are looking for volunteers right now. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, it's volunteer at seashepherdireland.org. So we need everyone from every walk of life. We don't just need, somebody who is same age as me or anything like that. Everyone is welcome to be a volunteer, and it doesn't matter how much time you can give to it. I mean, if you have 10 minutes a day where you share our posts, you are considered a Sea Shepherd. You are behind us, you are supporting us, please do so. So don't let like time constraints stop you from getting involved. If you're not interested in becoming a volunteer per se, but you do want to follow stuff, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have all the social medias. I even put up a TikTok at one point.
Well
Not
done.
sure
They're so
how well
hard.
that
It
worked.
took me like an hour to do a 30-second reel. I don't know how Gen Z do this. Oh my God.
I don't either. I need to, like, when my nieces and nephews grow up a little bit, I need to employ them. Um, but keeping your eyes open, really, and understanding what you're buying. If you are someone who buys fish, right, we don't expect everyone to be vegan. In an ideal world, we will be all vegan. But right now,
There's a
especially,
transition
like,
to happen.
there
Like,
is.
it's not going to happen overnight. So in
It's
this
absolutely not.
transition, what can people do?
Yeah, so I'm the only one in my family who is vegan, and I try to explain to them that if you could do it one day a week, for one meal a week, even not even for the whole day, but just do it for one meal a week, that's even like, it's a starting point. But really, what I drive home, and I try to drive home to everyone, is know where you are buying your stuff from. So when you pick up your beef, right, we had this huge campaign in Ireland about making sure it's Irish and make sure it's Irish beef and blah blah blah, Irish, right? Yes, 100% make sure it's Ireland. But where in Ireland is it coming from? And do you trust that farm/farmer? Just like I was quite shocked to find out when I was working in another company that a lot of chicken that's bought in Ireland is not Irish chickens. They say prepared in Ireland. Be careful. Prepared in Ireland doesn't mean that it's an Irish chicken. Prepared in Ireland means that it was packaged by the company in Ireland, but it was bought in, say, China and shipped here. And these factories are huge. It's just important to know that you're supporting locally, you're supporting your local farmer, your local industry, and you're not supporting more carbon footprints by buying something that came all the way from China. I mean, if we go back to like 50, 60 years ago, where we always used to go to a market and buy the
Yeah.
stuff there, it would
Yeah.
be amazing.
Yeah.
And then obviously the other parts are, how much packaging is on your product that you're buying. Could you buy something that's not as packaged? We all see the fruit and vegetables. I mean, a cucumber is covered in plastic. Why? I don't know. Just have the mindset of not buying that and stop giving money to that kind of production, because it's just not working for the environment and it's not worth it. And then what the other part is, obviously, if you don't have time to volunteer, but you do have a little more cash flow, please send it to those that need it, like us here in Sea Shepherd Ireland. There are loads of NGOs in Ireland that need support to continue what they're doing.
Yeah,
We
like
are
fair seas as
volunteers.
well, and
Absolutely. There's so many of them that are doing amazing work that need support money-wise, because as we say, money does, like, help, as well as is the root of all evil. But we are all volunteers. I put in a lot of my own money to help Sea Shepherd get moving and get going in Ireland. But in order for us to make a big impact, we need the materials to do so. And also the guys offshore need support. It costs like over 2 million to keep a boat on offshore for a year. That's with no one being paid. That's just the boat itself, fuel for the crew, I suppose. Food for the crew, and all the repairs and stuff like that they have to do as well. So
donations are
yeah,
very valued if you can, if anyone is in that position, or to even share,
exactly.
like you said, like this is what social media is for, like share the work of trusted NGOs that are doing what the government isn't. And obviously vote. I know our government options every voting cycle, they're never perfect, but vote in the direction that we need to go. Vote away from where we've been since the dawn of the Irish government.
Be informed on what's going on with the government as well. I mean, if you don't know, ask. I think people are afraid of asking because they should know, or they feel like they should know. But ask the question and just say, like, why are you voting for this person? And have that open mind of like, okay, this is a good idea or this is not a good idea, and this is how I want to contribute. And make up your own mind with what you want to do for yourself and why it sits well with you. You're not doing it just because the government told you to, or because I told you to as an NGO. You're doing it because you feel like it's the right thing for your future when you think of what it is going to look like.
Yeah, 100%. And if people do want to continue eating seafood, is there a way to know that what you're eating is not trawled, unless you're obviously buying it off the person who fished it that day? Is there a way to know? Because Seaspiracy talks about dolphin safe not being dolphin safe because they just bribe these companies for that stamp.
Yeah.
Is there a way to know for sure?
The only way to know 100% sure is to go to a fishmonger and actually buy them, like you said, from the person that actually caught the fish themselves. But the likes of your big, massive companies, don't buy from them. They will never buy locally. They will be always going by these big industrial ships, and commercial fishing just needs to stop. So look at the labeling. You'll be shocked. I guarantee you, anyone looking at a label in Dublin, Ireland, looking at a label and finding out that your salmon is actually coming from Tokyo or somewhere. Or the Faroe Islands is another massive one that we take a lot of our fish from. I was recently in Switzerland, and all of their fish comes from Norway, which a lot of Norwegian ships are actually fishing in Ireland, so they're actually Irish.
Oh my God.
They
God,
go
it's
to
so
Norway to
complicated.
catch it and back to Switzerland. So you can just imagine the carbon footprint of that. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of different things happening. And I won't even go into the whole fashion industry at all. But
Well,
I
yeah,
think
because
that's another podcast worth
yeah,
of
oh
stuff.
my God, no, there's so much. Yeah, because we didn't even talk about like the water treatment as well.
Mm,
Fashion, yeah, fast fashion, everything is interlinked. So that's why we just do the best we can, and be as conscious as we can about where things come from, because it didn't land on your plate from the sky.
yeah.
So yeah,
If everyone can just be aware of what's happening, open your mind a little bit to be taught something that's uncomfortable to know. It's not a nice situation that we're in right now. We all need to act to make it different, to help it continue. We have to think of the future generations and what's going to happen, but we also have to think of the now. And we can look outside and see what's happening with climate change by the weather that we're having. It's becoming more in people's faces, but people are turning away from it. So please just be open to listening to what's going on.
yeah, and I think listening is important, because what I need to do is encourage my close friends and family and the people that I'm around to open, because like again, people listening were probably open to the discomfort and the sadness, but then you turn it into action.
And you're saying friends and family there. I mean, when I said the fact of 100 million sharks are killed a year for their fins, they turned around to me and went, there aren't even 100 million sharks in the water. So what are you talking about? How could that even happen? I was like, what?
Oh,
Like, it is a
yeah.
massive number, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ocean is massive.
Yeah, we
Like,
can't. Yeah, you cannot comprehend.
no.
Like, yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's about, yeah, being open, a bit more open minded, and listening to those around you, whether you 100% agree with them or not, but just don't just yeah.
Yeah, ignorance is not necessarily the bad thing. It's willful ignorance. So like, I love when I learn stuff, which means I have been ignorant up until that point. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Even about
Yeah.
stuff in this interview. So that's a lovely point to end on. But I want to jump in a time machine with you now and travel to the future. Beep boop bop. We're in the future. Everything's worked out, Emma. The seas are thriving. We don't need to worry about our second breath or our first breath. The air is clean. We have eliminated oppressive colonial systems. Money isn't the evil anymore. What is one of your favorite things? If you imagine the future as it's worked out, like one of your favorite things about it, it could be something small or it could be something really broad.
I think about this question a lot because I think about what I'm doing every day and go, what is the difference that I'm making, and what impact is it going to have? So in an absolute ideal world where everything is good and we're in the future right now, the image that comes to mind for me is kids playing by the sea in absolute pristine water with little fish flying around them, and, like, tickling their feet, and dolphins jumping in the background, and whales passing by with nobody bothering them, and everyone living in a symbiotic kind of harmony, and no blood is running into any waters anywhere in the world because of somebody else's greed. Yeah, I guess it would be all blue.
All blue. What a lovely image of the future. And dolphin merchandise everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone has dolphin pillows.
Dolphin rings and earrings and jewelry made from nets.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I used to have a dolphin ring and a dolphin bag, actually. I just remembered now. That's so
I'm
funny.
pretty sure
Yeah.
everyone did. Like,
Everyone did. There was definitely moments in the 90s everyone had dolphin
yeah.
material. That's
I'm just
fab.
very glad I never got my the tattoo I wanted to get when I was younger was a dolphin, obviously, and I think like half of America have it.
Wow.
So I'm
Okay.
really glad I didn't get it. But now I have my beluga whale tail on my arm, which is a bit more different. But
Oh, beautiful.
it reminds me every day as well of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and
Yeah.
it's for those cute little creatures like beluga whales.
I'd love that. Emma, thank you so much for this chat. I'm going to link everything that we chatted about and, of course, Sea Shepherd's website and stuff like that. But I can't thank you enough for being here. Thank you so much.
It's been great, Cara. Thanks so much. Loved it, and best of luck with the rest of it.
All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Really enjoy hearing people's journey into why they start caring about the environment and that. So hopefully you can take yourself to a lake or a beach or a riverside and take some deep breaths in and appreciate the oxygen that we get from the ocean. I want to say two things here as well. First off, the EU Stop the Trade, Stop Finning campaign that they got over 1.1 million signatures from European citizens, Sea Shepherd Ireland and a couple of other groups as well. That was presented to the European Parliament, and then on the 27th of March there was a group of experts that made their case and made the plea, and basically there's a video of that online that you can watch and I will link in the show notes, but as well the European Parliament basically has until the 11th of July to make a decision. So hopefully we will find out then or before then that they will end the sale, the trading of shark fins, and prohibit the fishing of sharks for shark fins in Europe. It is the absolute least that we can do. So I've linked an article about that, and you can go back and watch what happened on the 27th of March. So that's one thing I want to say. And then the other thing, before I leave you guys, I want to just share some things that I've been listening to or reading or ingesting. And I want to give a shout out to Ecolution, which is back, which is a beautiful Irish podcast. It basically looks at loads of different topics that are really kind of hard to get your head around sometimes, and they're really digestible. I mean, it's made for kids. I love it though. So they just started back and they have a really important episode out on ocean currents and the science behind melting sea ice and how that affects the rising sea levels. It's really, really interesting, and this has not been in the news as much as it should have been after some recent reports came out. So I'd absolutely recommend giving Ecolution a listen, especially if you have little ears around. It's brilliant, but I mean, I really struggle to take in academic information, so I find it really, really helpful. So go listen to Ecolution. Birdwatch Ireland, their podcast is also back, and I love their podcast so much. And then a book that I'm reading now, I finished reading all of the guys from the panel talk for Curtin International Festival of Literature. They were all brilliant, and now I'm reading Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. It's really good. I'm halfway through already. I've only started reading a week ago, and I'd usually be quite a slow reader, so that is really, really helpful. And yeah, those are my kind of suggestions for you to kind of broaden your knowledge. And of course, all of the documentaries, anything else that myself and or Emma mentioned here in this interview will be linked in the show notes. If for whatever reason, when you're listening to this on Spotify or Google, you can find the links. If you go onto the website, bookofleavespodcast.com, I have a website, you'll be able to find them there. You can see Emma's episode and everything will be linked there. All right, I think that's everything. I hope you guys are having a lovely time. Wherever you're listening to this, wherever in the world, sending you all my love. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back again in 2 weeks' time. Keep your suggestions coming in for guests. I still have people coming up with ideas, and I've got a lovely little bank of recordings made, so hopefully the rest of them will all have perfect audio, but sure, look, we will see. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to share it with a friend, support on Patreon if you can, and go spend some time in nature by the sea. Talk to you soon. Bye.